This is NBC Nightly News, Tuesday, October 16th. Reported by John Chancellor.
Good evening. There were speeches and fighting in the Middle East today. In Israel, Golda Meir made a tough speech on the war. And in Cairo, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat said his country has missiles which can strike at Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Sadat also outlined his terms for a ceasefire, terms which would seem to be unacceptable to the Israelis. Here's more on Sadat's speech from Charles Quinn in Cairo.
President Sadat outlined his conditions for peace in what he called an open message to President Nixon. He said he was ready to accept a ceasefire now if Israel gave up all the land it won in 1967. He said he was ready to accept an international peace conference following the Israeli withdrawal. And he said he was ready at this very minute to open the Suez Canal. As a matter of fact, he said preparations to open the canal had already begun. Sadat was very mild in his references to the United States. He talked about the new American airlift, new tanks, new planes, new missiles, he said. But he added, these do not terrify us.
The Egyptian missile Sadat referred to would appear to be a type called a Zafir missile with a range between 180 and 230 miles. Theoretically, such a missile could strike cities in Israel, but there are some military experts tonight who doubt that the weapon is operational. Now, from Tel Aviv, here's a report on the speech made today by Israeli Premier Golda Meir.
When Prime Minister Golda Meir spoke to Israel's parliament this afternoon, her words were tough. She said Arab proposals for an Israeli withdrawal to the 1967 borders were ridiculous, that Arab leaders are only pretending their goal is limited, that in fact their objective is the total subjugation of the state of Israel. Mrs. Meir said the time for a ceasefire will come when the enemy's strength has been broken, and she emphasized that militant tone with the announcement that Israeli forces have crossed the Suez Canal and are attacking Egyptian artillery and anti-aircraft positions. The Israeli army won't say how many troops it sent across the Suez Canal, but that operation, plus reports today of heavy fighting on the eastern bank of the canal, apparently means that the decisive battle in this war has now begun. And the feeling here in Israel this evening is that there will be no talk of a ceasefire until that battle has been decided. This is Garrick Utley, NBC News in Tel Aviv.
American analysts looked carefully today at the text used by Mrs. Meir and President Sadat, searching for language which might indicate some movement toward a negotiated settlement. But as Richard Valeriani reports, there were no clues in that direction.
The statements from Egypt and Israel tended to confirm the view here that further diplomatic actions will have to take their cue from developments on the battlefield. President Sadat's conditions are considered to be totally unacceptable to the Israelis, and Mrs. Meir's speech contained no hints of compromise. Officials here still see no decisive turning point in the war, and there's still no momentum toward a ceasefire. They insist that serious diplomatic efforts are still being made to end the war, but they're being made behind the scenes without tangible results. Secretary Kissinger is still talking to the Russians every day, also without results. The only positive diplomatic development that's visible is a meeting scheduled at the White House tomorrow between President Nixon and 4 Arab foreign ministers. Richard Valeriani, NBC News at the State Department.
The meeting was requested by the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Algeria, and Kuwait. For a while, there was speculation that the conference would center on oil, but a spokesman for the Arabs said they don't want to talk about oil. They want a general discussion of the war in the Middle East, especially the United States' role. The hope and expectation at the State Department and here at the White House is that the Arab foreign ministers will have something that might break the diplomatic stalemate. But for now, it is wait and see. Tom Brokaw, NBC News at the White House.
The Gallup organization has finished a nationwide poll on the Middle East war. 25% of the people have no opinion, and 22% support neither side. Those who support the Arabs are 6%, while 47% support Israel. Senator Mike Mansfield, the majority leader, today called for a summit conference of the Arabs, the Israelis, and their supporters to bring the war to an end. On the program tonight, we'll have reports on the fighting in the Sinai Desert and in Syria. Guess who won the Nobel Peace Prize? Henry Kissinger and North Vietnam's Le Duc Tho. That's who. We'll have a report. The famous jazz drummer Gene Krupa is dead. We'll have some film of him at the top of his form taken in